The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Everybody has their own story and their own journey to share. Every journey conceals another journey within its lines. The path not taken and the forgotten angle. Listen to the stories from others sharing their triumphs and struggles that led them to where they are today. Welcome to the journey within you. Today, I'm so blessed to have this beautiful soul with me today. We have had the privilege, and when I talk about my community and how meeting people through Plexus has brought this girl to me. And I say a prayer partner, I say a sister in Christ. I mean, I get chills just thinking about that, because how God puts people in your life, and it just has brightened mine for sure. Charmaine, I'm just so thrilled to have you on today and to share your story with our listeners. So let's get started.
Oh my gosh, Laura, thank you. Thank you. And you know what? I could not have said that better, because this is life. You never know, like whatever platform you use, whether it was gut health supplements like Plexus, but I think God uses people and puts people in each other's circle for a reason. I've always believed that. And my favorite verse is Jeremiah 29:11, just because growing up, you never think about purpose, you never think about plans, you never think about reason, and you don't think how your life is being shaped. But I've been I've been on this journey, and I say a journey because I'm still learning. I'm still learning what is my purpose, and that was the whole reason for wanting to do this podcast with you. Is what is my purpose? And most people just don't, I think we just go through life and don't even stop to think, what is my purpose?
Right.
And I've had this calling. I would say calling. It's been on my heart for a while. Like, I want to share, because I have been trying to connect the dots. And with age comes wisdom, right?
Yes, so much so.
And I never thought about that, when I was young. But the older I've got, and I've just been into a reflecting mode, and been into personal growth and development, and I see the connection. I have been connecting the dots, and I'm like, wow. It just kind of sometimes blows my mind.
Yes.
And through all this, I see God's work, and I was like, well, what is my purpose if it's not giving glory to God for what He has done? And that was the whole point of me coming on this podcast. Is not like, sometimes I feel like, people think, oh, I don't want to toot my horn here. But I think in sharing life, which, some of us do, you give permission for someone else to just be themselves. You give permission for people to be okay with struggles. You give permission for people that challenges are okay because someone else has gone through it. You give permission for people to hope. And I think today, what I want to do is, by sharing, my journeys, I just want to empower people that nothing is lost.
No, nothing at all. I love that. I love that thought right there, that all that you go through in life, nothing is lost.
Nothing is lost. And so today, while I was reading my devotional, and I was like thinking, well, Lord, let me do justice to what I have to say, because that is my goal for no matter whatever platform I use, that I empower people to just live their purpose. And sometimes it's hard to know what your purpose is. And so I hope that, as the viewers, what they take away is, oh my gosh, that sounds difficult, but if someone has gone through it, maybe I can too. Right?
Maybe. Yeah. And that's what I love about this podcast, is showing women that through our struggles, you can get through it. I just showed you, because listen to her. She did it. You can too.
Absolutely. So, where do I even start?
So just tell a little bit about where you came from, because I know that you didn't grow up in the US, right? It was later that you came over.
Right. So my name is Charmaine D'Souza, and I am from India.
Yeah.
And I actually had no plans to come to the US,
Yeah.
but that is the beauty of life.
Mhm.
Who knew? I've always been saying from last year, that's my tagline, who knew?
I
But
love that.
apparently God had plans for me throughout my life. But I've been here in the US since 2004. And the reason why we immigrated here is because my oldest daughter, I have two girls, by the way. My oldest daughter, who is 24, was born with a congenital genetic disorder called Rett
Mhm.
syndrome. And for those who don't know what Rett is, it's an X-linked chromosomal disorder, but it causes neuromotor, retardation. So she, even though she's 24, she's still like a little baby. She's
Mhm.
nonverbal. She is wheelchair bound, and I am her caregiver.
Mhm.
And I never thought that, of course, like growing up, you never think you're going to have, a child who is disabled. And I thought
Mhm.
about that. But as I have grown through life, I've also realized that it's not a disability. I think these children they enable us to just be something that we would never have thought we could be. But tracing
Yeah.
back to my roots, I couldn't have done this life if I did not have all that growing up. And when I say growing up, like we don't think as kids what an impact your childhood
Yeah.
has on your future.
That's
I
right.
don't think we think about that,
No, you
but
don't. Mm-mm.
isn't that crazy? But I
Mhm.
don't think I could have been more prepared for life if I didn't have all those challenges, even when I was growing up.
Mhm.
And I think there's two ways of seeing it, and it's all perspective. But challenges make you or break you.
Mhm.
And I thank the Lord, it actually made me into
Made
the
you.
person I am
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
You
I think
know,
when you were telling share me with your story before, and how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have an older sister and I have a brother. I'm the youngest
You're the
of
youngest.
three. Yeah.
And then you put yourself through schooling to become a nurse, correct?
Yes. And
Yes.
that is a that is a weird story
Because
too.
that you weren't going to be that, right? That
I
was not where you were
wasn't.
heading.
I wasn't. But to just back on childhood, I mean, I had really good parents. I had strong foundation in faith. I had strong family values that were I was born Catholic, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, parents put the fear of God in me as growing up, and we had a hard life. When I say hard life, as kids, you try to just enjoy life as a child, and I think I part of my childhood actually entered in being taking a lot of responsibilities because
Mm-hmm.
when I was probably fifth grade, I was 10 or 12 when dad was laid off. He lost his job and we had no source of income.
Yeah.
And that was a very scary time. And so you think about, and most people today also face challenges
Mm-hmm.
with livelihood and finance, and you think,
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to get through life?
Yeah.
uh, if it wasn't for my mom, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, she didn't go to college, she just went to eighth grade, but she
Mm.
had a love for kids, especially teaching kids. And sometimes you don't realize you have some attributes that God gives each one of us,
Yes.
and how you use those gifts. Like my mom
Yes.
didn't think she was qualified. She just wanted to teach kids, and she had a good intuition with kids, and she, who knew, right? But she
Right.
used that. She
Right.
used her a little passion for teaching kids into a hobby. She was just my mom used to tutor kids at home because she had time on her hands, and she was like, well, what am I going to do with all the time that I have on my hands? She said, you know what, I'll teach kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
You never know what
No.
your skills are going to help you in the future.
Right. Right. You
And
know.
what started as mom teaching a bunch of kids just because she had time on her hands and she thought, that would be extra little pocket money, ended up like at one point, mom teaching 40 kids, and
That's
that was our
unbelievable.
source of income when dad
Wow.
lost his job.
That's so awesome. I love
And
how that, who
I
knew?
know that was a
Yeah.
blessing in disguise. And that's what I also love telling people. You should always try things because you never know, right? You never
Right.
know when it's
Right.
going to help you in the future.
Yeah. Right. That's what I prayed in January. Lord, show me my talents that I maybe have tucked down in there and not been using, because I didn't know I could. I didn't think I was worthy. Like your mom,
Absolutely.
she didn't think she was
She
qualified.
didn't think,
Yeah.
exactly. She didn't
And
think she could do that.
and so
And
he has
so
showed me because I've been open to it. I'm using those
you
talents.
absolutely, you have to be open to whatever, and sometimes you don't know you have those gifts and talents, but if you don't try, you won't know. And I tell a lot of people that because I have a lot of people tell me, well, I'm not good at that. And I'm like, did you even try?
Exactly. And you're telling yourself you're not good at that. You're putting that out there instead of saying, hey,
Yes,
I may be good at this if I try. I don't know.
absolutely. Absolutely. So that is what I love telling people. You should at least try it. Trying
Hmm.
it will let you know whether you even like it. And who knows,
Hmm.
you may love it. From like it,
Yeah.
it could go to love it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what was it you were going into when you decided for your career path? What were you doing first?
Well, I was a good student in school. I was like a bookworm. I wasn't into extracurricular activities, but I was so focused on academics
Hmm.
because I think I saw that as my sister. My sister was
Yes.
like A+ student, and I kind of always wanted to be like her.
Hmm.
She was like an all rounder, and she was so good at crafts, and she was good at crochet and knitting. And
Oh,
sometimes,
nice. Yeah.
as growing up, you have that, especially when you feel like you can't do it and you compare yourself. And I
Hmm.
did that for a long time. When I was growing up, I would compare myself to my sister, and I didn't feel like I was good
Right. Right. You
because
couldn't level up to her. Yeah.
I looked up to her, but I couldn't do what she did.
Oh.
And that actually, a lot of us do that. We compare ourselves, and
Hmm.
I wasn't good at I
Hmm.
felt I was not good enough.
Hmm.
And I know that sets you up for failure, but that was how, when I was growing up, I thought, you know what, I can't do what she's doing, and I'm not good enough. And I compared myself,
Yeah.
and I hate that, because I tell people, don't compare yourself.
Exactly. We learned wisdom,
I
wisdom as we
know,
got
right?
older.
I
Yeah.
know. And it took a while growing up and as I only realized that in my 40s, that, I have my own talents,
Exactly.
and I may
Exactly.
not be able to do what the next person does, or the or Sally over here or Jane
Hmm.
over here, but what
Hmm.
I have is something what the others don't have. And
Right.
everyone has their unique talents. But so when dad lost his job, besides, we all had to pitch in as family. We all
Right.
had to do. And so mom didn't ask us to do it, we just did it. And that's what foundation in having a good, strong values and family does. You don't
Hmm.
think about
You
things, you
pull
just pitch
together.
in and you pull together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I remember, like, I was in fifth or sixth grade, and I would go to school and then come home, have lunch, do my homework, and by 3 p.m. I was ready to teach the kids that mom used to home tutor, because mom
Hmm.
had difficulty teaching the kids science and math because that was a little out of her league. And me and my sister would teach kids.
Right.
And
You
we
knew
did
it.
that like from 3 to 9 p.m. And we did that for
Wow.
years. And
Wow.
I never thought about it anything, but it set the tone of hard work ethics.
Right.
It
Right.
set the tone of knowing the value of money.
Hmm.
And that was my big, key takeaway growing up, is
Hmm.
I know the value of money. And
Hmm.
I'm not just going to throw my money because that is hard earned. It doesn't fall off from
Yes.
the sky, right?
Yes. Right. Right. And then he led you to school, college.
Yes. And well, college was like I was trying different things. Like as kids, you think of all these lofty
Yes.
goals. And
Yes.
I wanted to go into genetics, but of course, like that required a higher percentage, and I did not. And so I applied to different places, and I had to give entrance exam. And somebody told me, "Oh, nursing is good, and there's good scope." I said, "I'll go figure, I'll go apply," and I
Yeah.
did. And
You got it.
they called me like, like you passed the entrance exam, and I was like, okay, these are the people who called me first. I guess
Oh
I'll
my
be a
goodness.
nurse.
Wow.
So that was a crazy thing because I never thought I would be a nurse.
Right. That wasn't on your radar to do
That
that,
wasn't
but
on my radar. Who knew,
who
right?
knew?
Who
Yeah,
knew?
that's right. Who knew what you needed this for?
Absolutely. But so what started as just, going to nursing school and be a nurse, I really never thought how I would be used as a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
just in my work life, but personal life.
Yeah.
Uh, and nursing is not for the weak and faint-hearted, by the way.
Right. Right. No, that's
It,
hard work. I mean, that
it's
is
it
hard work. I did CNA work and that was hard work.
it,
I
it, it
know.
was
Yeah.
it was hard because I remember in third semester, like it was so hard. And I literally cried to my mom and I told her, I don't want to do this. And she said, well, you can quit.
Yeah.
And when she said that, I stopped whining and I said, no, I don't want to
No.
quit. And
Yeah.
that's probably set the tone for me in life that I am not a quitter.
Right. Right. You don't give up.
I don't give up. And it's been like, a journey from being little and seeing my mom do the hard work and not give up on
Mm-hmm.
us. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I went to nursing school and it was hard, and I said, no, I'm not going to give up, even though it's hard. I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't make that semester, but my seniors in school said, well, if you can get through third semester, you'll get through 4 years of nursing.
Oh,
And they were right. So
right.
I
Right.
graduated as a nurse, and just out fresh, I went into something very intensive and became a critical care nurse.
Wow.
And I've been a critical care nurse for 29 years now.
Wow.
I
That's
know.
so good. We appreciate that. Oh, so much. That is such a
And
gift.
I know it's when you say it's a gift, Laura, it really is because um, I think like I've been in that position as a nurse where I've seen people come on a stretcher dead and walk
Mm-hmm.
out
Mm-hmm.
of the hospital on
Mm-hmm.
on their own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And I've also been in that position where I think I was the one meant to be to take care of them, and they have passed this
Mm-hmm.
journey with
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
being there at their bedside to be, a source of comfort and peace, not
Yes.
for just
Yes.
for them, but for their family. So
Yes.
I think it's not just a job or a profession, it's been a calling. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that this was meant for me until, you start reflecting, and I'm like, wow, God, how did
How
you
you
use
brought
me?
this in. Yeah. And then I thought was something cool too. You told me that you went abroad to do travel type
Yes,
nurse work.
right,
And
because
what happened there?
I was so focused in my nursing career because, I was in my 20s, and of course, I wanted to make big money. Who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, right, when they're in
That's
their
right.
20s?
Yeah, at that age.
So, me and two of my batchmates, we went. We decided we would travel because it was, good money, and that was our first time living out on our own,
Mm,
and being independent. So all three of us went, and we were in Saudi Arabia. I was in Saudi Arabia for about 6.5 years.
wow.
And a big part of my nursing career knowledge has been from in that, tenure, just because I learned so much.
I
You
bet.
learn about culture,
Oh, yeah.
you learn about
Different
so many
medicines.
things,
Yeah. Oh,
and you
yeah.
interact with so many people.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so focused on nursing and of course making money that I never thought that my life would take a little turn. Who
Yeah.
knew? I
Who
think that
knew?
tagline, who knew?
Oh my goodness. Who knew?
Who
There comes
knew?
this guy.
I know. I'm like, who knew? Because when you are in a foreign land, you miss home.
Yeah.
If you've been away from
Yeah.
home, you know that feeling when you miss home. And so when you find somebody or you meet somebody from home, which I met, another fellow nurse, and what are the odds she was my from my alma
From
mater,
home.
like
And
she
that
was
was
my
so
senior. And I
unbelievable.
thought, how cool to meet someone from back home. She was 5 years my senior, but she had a family there and she invited me to a house party. And I was like, sure. Not that I'm the party kind of person, but I
Yeah.
was like,
But just to
sure,
be with people. Yeah.
exactly. So I went to her house for a house party and we had so much fun. Like cooking and games. And it's kind of odd to think that we would have a great time living in a culturally orthodox country, but we had a blast.
Yeah.
And little did I know, like, she had invited her brother too. And within like a couple months, her brother was courting me, and
No
I
plans for
had
that.
absolutely no plans. I had no plans. I wasn't getting hitched. I was so focused on, like, my
Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
But apparently he saw something in me, and he liked me. And I didn't
Oh.
even notice that until my
Yeah.
friend was nudging me and she told me, well, he's interested in you. And I was like, really? Because I wasn't in that
That's
frame
not
of
on my
mind.
radar.
That's not
Yeah.
on my radar. But
Yeah.
but but I think I did say this little prayer, because when you're in a foreign land, and you don't know people, and you're just like
Yeah.
afraid of taking, and
Right.
even a relationship, you're afraid, like, is this the right person for me? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have all these doubts, and I had just met him a couple times, and I was like, I don't know if this person is right for
Yeah.
me or not.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do you decide? Like, how do you take a big step? And
Yeah.
I remember saying this prayer at night, like, Lord, if this is the person for me, uh, let me know,
Yeah.
or give me a sign or something, because I am
Mm-hmm.
on my own and I was afraid.
Yeah.
And it so happened that I went to my friend's house who had invited me, who's now my sister-in-law, and her husband actually, like, talked me through it. And I was like, he was a good guy, and I was like, I think I will take this as God's plan and
Mm-hmm.
just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. This year we celebrated 25 years of our
Oh, that's so
marriage.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
I
think, oh my
love.
gosh, who knew that I would
Mm-mm.
go? And this is where I call about connecting the dots, because I me and my husband are from the same church. We
Yes.
are from the same home, town, and his house is like 10 minutes away from my house, but I had never met
Who
him.
knew? Yeah.
Who knew? I
Oh my
had to go
gosh.
all the way to a different country and meet him there.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds? What are the
Yes.
chances that
Yeah.
you would meet someone from your
That's
own
only.
church, from your own town, and get into a relationship
Yeah.
and be married? And I
And
think
you get
about
married.
that, and it gives me goosebumps, because I
Yes.
never I never knew. I never
And you
knew.
didn't go there searching for that. You weren't looking for that.
Exactly. And I
And
didn't go
so that was
searching.
definitely a God
It,
thing. I mean, he
it was
created that.
just, I
Hmm
know, it just like fell into my lap. And like, I was just hesitant and worried. And, you get all those normal things about anxiety. Will this work or not work? And here we are. And I was like, well, it was meant to be.
hmm
It
hmm
was meant to be.
And
Just like,
definitely,
just like being a nurse was meant to be.
right, right. Because it's been so beneficial now with your daughter and not knowing that you were going to be in that life, and
Right,
then y'all
right.
coming
And
to the US and being able to teach others things that you've learned since you've been here on helping your daughter and what's available for them. Because there's a lot of people that struggle with that. They don't know which way to
right.
go and how to get the benefits and help that they need and taking care and, taking
Right.
some of the
Now,
burning off of you.
Right. And like nothing prepares, nothing in life
Uh-uh.
prepares you for
Mm-mm.
having a child who has special needs. She was my honeymoon baby, and I never thought, I never anticipated, I never knew, even though
Mm-mm.
like you don't go through that in nursing school. It doesn't prepare you for things
No,
like that.
no.
Life is a big teacher because it teaches you lessons that you would
Yes,
never have learned in school.
exactly. That's
And
so true.
so, when my daughter was born, she was like normal. Everything was fine. She had a
Mm-hmm.
little delayed milestones, but I never thought much about it because some kids are slow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working in Saudi at that time, and I had not planned to come to the US, but my sister, who had been here, she had been telling me all the time, come over here. It's a much better life. And I thought, I think once I had my daughter, I thought, it would be better for us as a family.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I never knew the gravity of how much I needed that and how much it was necessary. I was just, processing my paperwork to come and
Right.
immigrate here. Little did I know that my daughter would be diagnosed with that condition.
Right.
And that's what I mean by connecting the dots. I never knew. And it just gives me goosebumps to think about, like, God had been planning this all the time,
Mm-hmm.
whether it
Mm-hmm.
was me having a difficult childhood, or me being a hard worker, or me
Mm-hmm.
meeting my husband, or me being a
Mm-hmm.
nurse, for what he had plans for me, especially with my daughter. And
Right.
I had left my daughter with my parents while I was studying to give all my entrance exams for nursing.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter had regressed at that time, and I was still in Saudi Arabia while I was studying to give all my exams because I could not do night shift and study and do all the things. And my
Right.
parents were taking
Right.
care of her for 5 to 6 months because they said, just concentrate on, getting
Your
through
studies.
and
Yeah.
your studies. And then when you're done, you know, just you can take her back.
Mm-hmm.
And she had regressed, and they did not tell me because they were afraid for me.
Yeah.
Like,
They didn't want you to
I would
quit.
I didn't, yeah, and they thought I would have a breakdown, and they didn't want me to lose sight of the plans and all the work
Mm-hmm.
that had gone in. But anyway, that started. I came to pick her. Flew down to pick her up, and that's when they told me about her diagnosis. And so that was in 90. My daughter was born in 99, and 2000 is when she was diagnosed. So
Mm.
then it started this whole battery of doctor's visits and doing this testing, going for this therapy, going for that therapy, going
Mm.
looking at clinical trials. And that's probably where my love for learning and research and the science actually came from.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a nurse, I didn't know a lot about genetics, and I had to
Right.
educate myself so much. And went into this mode of like shutting my brain down and just focusing on her because
Mm-hmm.
she became a whole entity. And both me and my husband put all our effort and energy into her. And so for the last 20 some years, like, we had to put our lives on hold
Right.
just so that we could get her stable, we could get her where she needed to be.
Mm.
Talk about challenges, right?
Oh, I can
um,
imagine.
but for a long time, I always asked the question, why?
Mm.
Because it makes you
Yeah,
think, like,
that's our
why? Like,
human.
why
Yeah.
me? And you go through those phases of
Mm.
denial and processing as to, why God, why me?
And what did I do
And
wrong?
what did
Yeah.
I do wrong? And why
Yeah.
should I have this kind of child? And
Mm.
why couldn't she be normal like any other
Right.
child? Why couldn't we have
Right.
a normal life?
Yeah.
And you realize that God always has a plan for every one of us.
Mm.
I didn't know. And so
Right.
it has been a journey, kind of trying to find out the why. I always
Yeah.
kind of delve on the why because it actually gives you a sense of relief in finding answers. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, talk about talk about challenges. If health was not enough, a challenge, the school system drove us crazy because
Oh, I can imagine.
we had to go through this hoop and that hoop because they don't make things easy. Let me tell you,
Mm-mm.
they don't make things easy for children and individuals with special needs and disability. And so it kind of grew this resilience and grit in me that I fought for a lot of things, whether it was like for Medicaid and waivers or services, because a lot of the resistance was like, she doesn't qualify. Well, and that was where I probably grew the most. And I said, why not? And it was that mama bear in me, and I was like, why not? Why can't she not have it? I feel it, she should have it. And so and so that never give up attitude came in. And that's what I think the beauty of life is. I think all those initial struggles in life prepared me for this. I feel God just prepared me for all these challenges when because if not, I couldn't get the things done for my daughter.
No, you would have given up because you were being told, making you feel like, no, well, it's not going to happen. I can't, she can't.
Yes.
But you knew there was a way, and you saw it.
And if there was, and if I didn't know a way, I actually tried to find a way. And I'm so grateful for all that. I'm grateful for all the challenges, just because it makes you so much stronger. And it just lets somebody else know that, when someone else has walked in these struggles, it just brings out this little piece to others who are following in maybe in my footsteps, that know that this is totally possible.
Yeah, I bet you've built a great community of people around you, and maybe that are going through that. Do you have that connection?
I did, because I would, and I call that paying it forward. Like, for a lot of resources, I didn't know. And that's just the nature of life. We don't know a lot of things. And my greatest resource were moms just like me, who had special need kids, and teachers who taught, and they would tell me, well, go try this, apply for this. And I had moms who would tell me, did you apply for this because your daughter could get this? And so because somebody else helped me, when somebody comes and asks me, I tell them the same thing. I'm like, you could get services, you could do this, and you could do that. And if you've not asked your provider, your doctor, go ask them. They should be able to help you. So it's kind of build that, paying it forward, because somebody else did that for me. And that's just life. You don't realize how you can help somebody by just sharing. And that's the whole idea of this podcast, because somebody listening is probably going to, that I hope their takeaway is, well, if somebody else does this and they could get through all these hoops, maybe I should just try. Maybe I should not give up.
And we want them to always know that it's not been easy. There's been hard days. And like you said, you question it. I mean, that's our human part, is to question why. And sometimes I have to admit, we don't ever find out the why. We want to, but there's reasons behind that he doesn't want us to know the why. Just keep doing the work, keep moving forward, and he's going to provide, right?
I think God works in mysterious ways. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. For a long time, I was kind of angry. And I said, why me? Why me? Why couldn't I be happy? Until when I was going to Shanice's school, in First Steps, and we were so overprotective of her. I thought nobody could take care of her as good as me, which is, but the school system was really nice. They let us be in the room and watch them. And while I was at her school at Churchill Park, which is an awesome school for kids with special needs, there was this little girl who was on a beanie bag, and I asked, and she had a trach and a peg, which is like a breathing tube and a feeding tube. And I asked the teaching assistant, like, does she have cerebral palsy? Because a lot of the kids there had it. And what she told me changed my perspective that day. And she said, oh no, she was a healthy, normal little girl. She was playing with her cousins and her brothers, and she choked on a bead. and
Mm.
she
Mm.
asphyxiated, which means it's like she choked on it and she had a brain injury. It's an
Oh.
anoxic brain injury where your brain is not getting oxygen. And I couldn't process that.
Mm.
It just hit me like, oh my goodness, this child was a sweet little normal little girl, and her life changed in an
Yeah,
instant.
in an instant. Mm-hmm.
And from that day, I stopped complaining about why me.
Right, right. Because there's always someone that's going through something worse, right?
There's always someone
Yes.
who is
Tr-
going through something worse than
Harder
you.
times.
And I
Mm-hmm.
keep telling, the grass is not green on the other side. The
Mm-mm.
grass is always green where you water it.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped complaining and I started being grateful.
Right, right. That's where I've
I
turned around so many things. It's not, and the fear, and I always tell this too, that when you live in fear, you're robbing God of what he wants to do. You're taking away,
absolutely.
because you're filling it with fear. Put that away and let him just take care of all the things that you've got to do. Yeah, they're going to be hard. You're not going to be always happy, but you figure it out with him. He's leading you. And that's the way you get through it. And look what's happened. Your life has been blessed. I mean, you're living a beautiful life. You have a gorgeous daughter who's able to grow and do still because you've got the resources. You have another child that's thriving and she's doing
Yes.
fine in the mix of everything. Um, and then you have your Plexus business that's thriving. We love that, our health and happiness and hope that that shares with everyone.
I know.
And how,
I always say, never say no to opportunities because you never know. And I
right,
say that in the sense because I wasn't looking for Plexus.
right.
Um, Plexus came to me rather than I go to them.
Yeah.
And, because, as a nurse, we always take care of other people.
Mm-hmm.
As a mom, we always take care of the family.
Mm-hmm.
As women, we always do things where we put ourselves last. And I
Yeah.
was no different.
Yeah.
It took a toll on me. I've worked night shift for 20 plus years just because of Shanice's issues, just so that I could take care of her. And then, I work in the hospital and then I would come home and it was another hospital setup because I was constantly taking care of
Mm-hmm.
everyone, and I got burnt out, and
Mm-hmm.
I fell off the bandwagon, and like a lot of moms. And then 40s hit me and I just had health issues that I had always shoved at the back because I never had
Mm-hmm.
the time.
That's what we do.
You always say you never have the time.
Right.
And until you hit rock bottom and you realize, uh, you know, that was a wake up call for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how challenges are. Challenges are wake up calls. If
Yes, they
I
are.
didn't have to be miserable and be sick and tired of being sick and tired, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have done
You
stuff.
wouldn't have done that. Yeah.
I wouldn't have, decided to take a leap of faith and do Plexus and improve on my gut health when
Mm-hmm.
I had been saying no for 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
I said no for 7 months because, you know what, in nursing school, they don't talk about gut health. They don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about a lot of things in med school. And I was so skeptical.
Right.
And, but when you hit rock bottom, like in anything in life, and you grasp things, you never know when they can turn into blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just taking a chance on Plexus to help me with my health issues. I had chronic cough. I couldn't sleep. I worked night shift. I barely survived. I was tired. I was exhausted. I was overweight. I was
Mm-hmm.
borderline diabetic. My knees hurt. I was just
Yeah.
miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just, I love how now we don't feel like that anymore because we
I
chose
don't. I
different.
mean,
Yeah. We were able
I'll
to
say I
change
still
that.
get tired, but I'm tired because I'm doing so much more.
Oh,
I'm doing so
yeah.
much more. I never
Yeah.
imagined
It's a good
doing a
tired.
lot of things. It's a good tiredness.
Yeah.
And, as nurses, like we always take care of people, and
Mm-hmm.
health and wellness has always been something I enjoy doing to
Yeah.
help people out, irrespective whether you're my friend, my family, a stranger, nobody,
Yeah.
anybody. But I've always done that. And I thought to myself, especially when I started to see my health benefits and I did a 360-degree turn, and all the things that I was miserable were just gone away because I
Mm-hmm.
worked on my gut health and my core health.
Yeah.
Who knew, right? Who
Right,
knew?
right. Who knew? I
Who
love that.
knew? And I
I
was a
love that.
whole different person.
Yeah,
And the 3.5 years that I've been doing Plexus, I've done things that I would never imagined,
right,
even
right.
in a wildest dream. I was never an athletic person, and even in college. And at age 49, I started running, and I started running just because I wanted to do this charity for St. Jude. And from doing Plexus and so much of growth and personal development that,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even do this kind of growth and development even as a nursing profession.
No, it's a whole new level.
It's a
A whole
whole
new
different
level.
level of getting
Mm-hmm.
to know your own self. I've
Mm-hmm.
been on this journey of knowing my own self, of pushing myself and doing things that were beyond my comfort zone. Like I wouldn't even run,
Right, right. No,
right? But I
I
did.
always
I
said that I'm not
did.
a runner.
I But you know what? It's not it hasn't been great, but I still did it. And I could
Yeah,
check it off my list and say, I did it. I did it
yeah,
at age 50 and
yeah,
49 that I didn't
yeah,
do. So you
yeah.
have to actually enjoy the journey and like, for example, I'll tell you this. I told you when I was growing up, I looked up to my sister, like she did all this wonderful stuff. And I
Hmm.
felt like, you compare yourself and you feel like you're never good enough.
Right.
Who knew? Because in my 40s, I had this opportunity to try different hobbies. And I started learning to crochet, and I took a class on cake decorating, and I
I
loved
know
it.
you're baking. I know. I love
And
seeing
now
all your
I'm
things.
a
Yes.
baker. I can make really
Beautiful. Yes.
beautiful cakes.
Yes.
I'm not professional, but I would still consider myself an amateur. But who
Y-
knew?
Yeah. Who
Something
knew?
that I thought I could never do when I was
Hmm.
growing up in school. Who knew that I had it in me?
That's
It
right.
was just not the right time.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is also the other thing. We all have seasons. Maybe this season
Hmm.
may not be right for you, but never discount it, because it may be your next season.
Right. Right. Stay open to that.
They open to that. I never knew I was going to be a network marketing person, because
Mm-mm.
I thought, well, who knew? I'm not
Who
good at
knew?
sales. I said, I'm not good at it. But when you love something, you just give your 100%. And
Yes.
that's what I've done. I've just tried and given my best, especially for things that I have a love for. Like
Hmm.
I love cooking and baking. And now I have people asking me recipes all the time,
Yeah.
and I share that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you share the love of what you do. Like I love I love sharing scriptures, because I
Yes.
tell what my faith has done for me
Yes.
in these 24 years of
Hmm.
of
Your
growing,
walk
not
with
just
the Lord.
24 years,
Yeah.
but just how it has blossomed and it has
Hmm.
grown. And
Hmm.
the messages I get from people are so priceless.
They are. They are. That means so much too, because you know you're impacting others by what you're doing.
Absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. And you never realize by you being open and sharing. And this is what journey with Plexus has done, is I've become open to sharing and being
Hmm.
vulnerable,
Yes.
because real
Yes.
life is not perfect, right? Real
No,
life is
no,
never perfect.
no. Well,
And
Charmaine,
uh,
I have enjoyed this so much. I love having other women on, just show the possibilities in life. And I always like to share something I ask a question with all my guests, and I just like to know something fun. And I collect things, not a lot of things, but I love to collect angels. Don't have a lot of them because I kind of, I don't want it overwhelming, but just something special. But I always like to ask, what is something that you love to collect?
hmm, I like to collect experiences,
Beautiful. I love that too. I had that said the memory someone told me, and I thought that is so
memories.
cool. Yeah,
And
it's
I'll tell you
creating.
why. I've had some really beautiful memories, like living in Saudi Arabia, like those house
Mm-hmm.
parties, like in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the best days of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
I've gone on different trips, or met people,
Mm-hmm.
or had encounters with people, and I think those are, you cannot put a price value on
No.
experiences.
No, that's so good. I like that. And then I have a stack of cards and I just shuffle them before I start my podcasts and, pray over the podcast, and whatever card is on top, that's the scripture I want to share. And so today it says, Those who know your name trust in you, for you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you. Psalms 9:10. So that we should always be seeking him because he's never going to forsake us. He's always there,
That's true. That's true.
always with us. So, Charmaine, thank you again for being a guest today. It was so fun. I love you.
I love you too, Laura. And I've just only known you through Plexus, right?
That's right.
Who
That's
knew?
right. Yeah, who knew? Thank you for joining my podcast today. We all have a story to share. Each story has purpose and makes an impact to you, the listener, creating a journey with passion and purpose. The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Please share with others and subscribe below.